What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I hope your week's going great. Today I wanted to do a small recap of the year 2020 in terms of my basketball sports card investments. So I wanted to share with you my top 5 best and worst basketball sports card investment decisions in 2020. So let's get started. Let's start with the lows. I always like to do the bad things first and then kind of end in a higher note. So first on the list of my terrible decision in 2020 is the 2019 Kawhi Leonard Optic Holo. I bought this beautiful card for about $124, thinking that this is the first card that Kawhi Leonard is in the Clippers jersey in the Optic set, and if the Clippers win or are headed to the finals, this card would skyrocket. But as disappointing as it was, the Los Angeles Clippers never made it to the finals and even the Western Conference Finals. So this card plummeted all the way down to $10. So we're looking at $114 in loss, which is about 92% decline in the card value. I still have the card because it just hurts so much, but it's a beautiful card, but it'll probably stay with me forever. Number 2 on the list is the 2016 Panini Prism Pascal Siakam PSA 10 card. I had bought this card for about $660 just before the bubble had started because one, the Raptors were defending champions from the 2018-2019 season. And I just really felt like the Raptors had it together and they would at least make it to the Eastern Conference Final. Lo and behold, that did not happen, and his card currently is valued at $250, which brings it to about a $410 unrealized loss, meaning I didn't actually sell the card or get rid of the card, it's still with me, and that's about a 62% decline. Third on my list of my worst decisions in 2020 is the 2015 Porzingis Prism PSA 10. My logic in purchasing his card was Luka's cards were going up, Mavs were performing really well, and so was Kristaps. So I thought that his card values would follow that of Luka's and continue to go up. So I bought his card at about $490 on eBay, and the card is currently worth $350. So that comes down to $140 in loss. So a few learnings from there is, one, just because they're the second best player on the team doesn't mean their card value will follow the first player on the team, like Luka here. And although the Mavs were in the playoffs, I think a lot of people were not in the market for Kristaps' card because they knew that the Mavs weren't going to move on to the semi-conference. So a lot of learning there. And of course, the injury that he had towards the end of last season didn't help with the card value. Fourth on my list, which is a similar strategy that I had for Kawhi Leonard's 2019 Optic Holo card, was the 2019 Paul George Optic Holo. I bought 2 of these in raw form. Again, it was one of those bets that I had where if the Clippers were making it to the finals, that I would have it graded by then and flip it. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I bought 2 of these cards, about $50 each. And today they're worth $5. So that's a $45 unrealized loss per each card and a 90% decline in card value. Last on my list, and this one I really think that I just got in at the wrong time for it, but I am going to hold it long term because I believe in the player and I know that the card is going to go back to the point that I entered and even more. And that's the 1992 Shaquille O'Neal Topps PSA 10. I bought 2 of these cards at an average of $700 per card, and they're currently worth $400. So it's actually climbing back up. It was a little bit lower than that a few weeks ago, but it's now back up to $400. So for each card, I saw about $300 loss, and that's about a 43% decline overall. So overall, my worst mistakes, at least I tell myself that they're not as terrible as it could have been, at least in the basketball world. If you have seen my previous video about my soccer card mistakes, that's another level of mistakes. But in the basketball world, I think my worst mistakes weren't too detrimental and were compensated by some of these big wins that I'll talk about now. So first on my list of top 5 big wins from 2020 for basketball cards for me was James Harden Topps rookie card. So I had bought a raw card of this on eBay for $145. And when I got the card, I knew that this card was in such a great condition. I sent it off to PSA 5-day service. So that cost me about $65, totaling to $210 out of pocket. And this card today is worth $2,000. So that's almost a $1,800 gain, or a 9.5x in the value of the card. And I'm really happy with that. And I want you to know that, eBay is still trustable to some degree, as long as you do your exercise in making sure the card looks reasonably in good condition in the pictures. And if you're not able to see that in the picture that the seller posted, feel free to message them and ask for additional photos. That's always legit. And when you get the card, you can decide whether to send it in for grading or not, depending on the condition. So second on my list is also a similar strategy where I bought a bunch of cards in raw format from eBay and got it graded. And that's the 2019 Panini Prism LeBron James raw cards. So again, this was a similar strategy that I had with Kawhi and Paul George, where I wanted LeBron's first cards in Lakers uniform. And that was this 2019 Panini Prism LeBron cards. So I bought 5 of these at a cost of about $25 on average for each card. And I sent it off to PSA for a 10-day service at $21 for grading. So for each card, my out-of-pocket was $46 and $230 in total. So when I got the cards back, and the timing was impeccable, I got them back just 2 weeks before the Lakers went to Western Conference Final against the Nuggets. And 3 of them returned back PSA 10 and 2 of them returned PSA 9. And the PSA 10s, I sold them for about $280 each on average. And the PSA 9, I sold them for about $70 each on average. So my total out-of-pocket cost for all these 5 cards were $230, and my total return from these cards were $980, bringing us to a net gain of $750, and that's about a 3.3x in the price of the card. So a big win there. And what I want to point out here is that you should never put all your eggs in one basket. You can always hedge around. So in the Western Conference, for example, last year, Clippers and Lakers were favored to win. I had bought both the Clippers players in their jersey, like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and also LeBron James in his Lakers jersey. Third on my list is Michael Porter Jr. And I actually got into him earlier on in 2020 because I had heard so much about him in high school, and how he was just a number 14 pick of the draft class just really bothered me. And I knew that the Nuggets were gonna have a breakout year either this year or next year. And so I had bought his base Prism rookie PSA 10 cards for $110 each, and I bought 2 of them. And as the scrimmage game started to be played in the bubble, people were realizing that the third player in Nuggets after Jokic and Murray was MPJ. And he had some explosive games where he was scoring really well, rebounding, doing 3-pointers. So his price literally skyrocketed overnight. So I went ahead and sold both of these cards at about $320 each. So in net, I made $210 on each card, and that's a 2.9x return. Fourth on my list, and this card I haven't sold yet, so it's definitely in an unrealized format, is the 2003 LeBron James Topps Chrome PSA 10. I bought this card for $9,300. It was a great deal made with a gentleman in Houston, Texas. He's like a huge LeBron collector, so he was just kind of offloading one of these Topps Chrome's card to get a bigger card. And so yeah, I bought the card for $9,300, and today it's worth about $17,500. At least that's the last comps on eBay. So in net, I have an unrealized gain of $8,200, which is a 1.9x growth in the card value. I think this card is still very undervalued. I'm going to keep this card a long term. Unless you have a very solid reason why you're selling your LeBron James rookie cards, I highly encourage you to keep them and hold them, because I think LeBron James's card value will only go up. Yes, it will have the ups and down motion for sure within seasons, but think about it, right? He has potentially another championship coming. He could retire in the next 2 to 3 years. his son could come in and play. He could drop a documentary. He has different movies coming out. I mean, LeBron James's reach and influence in the sports world and also just in the community is so huge that I'm going to hold his cards for a very, very long time. Fifth and last on my list, and it's very suitable for the year 2020, is the Kobe Bryant Topps rookie card PSA 9. And I talked about it in my previous video how this was actually my entry point into the sports card market. After the tragic event of his death, this is the first card that I had bought, just wanting to commemorate what a great player he was and how he actually impacted a lot of our lives, even though we didn't have a personal relationship with him. So his card has actually seen some pretty hefty price fluctuations over the last 12 months, but it's now climbing back up with the Hall of Fame ceremony coming up and potentially a documentary, etc. So I bought a bunch of his cards for about $350 on average, and they are worth $850 today. And I think it's only going to go up at least until April, May, when the Hall of Fame ceremony is going to happen, and it might see a dip again a little bit, but I think that this card and any other well-established Kobe Bryant rookie card is going to see a price spike. And so yeah, in net, I'm sitting at about $500 in unrealized gain for each of these cards, which is a 2.4x in price value. Yeah, so overall, I think 2020 was a great year of not only just investing, but also learning from my mistakes and forming a lot of good connections in this industry and this hobby. So I hope your 2021 is better than your 2020 as well. And I hope that some of the mistakes that I made in 2020 you also avoid making in 2021 and make better collecting decisions in 2021. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.